Hello everyone, Team Player Gaming here. Welcome to another video. As some of you may know, Paizo just announced the playtest of two brand new classes for Pathfinder 2e. Not new subclasses, not new archetypes, full-fledged new classes. And we haven't even gotten to Guns and Gears yet. Kind of insane. We won't know what these classes are until Gen Con, which is about 2 weeks from now. However, today I thought I'd cover 5 classes from Pathfinder 1 that I would like to see these new classes be. I will be going in order of least likely to most likely. Let's just get started. The first class I want to talk about is the Occultist. The Occult spell list is so good at teamwork that I think we need a dedicated Occult prepared spellcaster. The Occultist would be the perfect way to do it. I mean, doesn't Occultist just sound like a prepared Occult caster? The implements would be the perfect subclasses, and focus powers could be their focus spells. Plus, I think it'd be very cool to be able to bind an outsider and get it to answer your questions. Sadly, I think this one is probably the least likely on my list. There are 3 main reasons why. Number 1, the Occultist is a psychic class in Pathfinder 1. There are 4 psychic classes in Pathfinder 1, and I feel like if they were going to introduce one of them, they'd introduce all of them, not just 2. Number 2, the Occultist relies way too much on items. If you lose your implement, you're pretty screwed. Lastly, the Occultist almost feels like a worse bard. They only start off with 1 school of magic and get more as they level up. They would have to completely change how the Occultist casts spells in order for this to work. So yeah, very unlikely, unfortunately. The next class I want to see in the playtest is the Skald. The Skald is kind of a combination of a barbarian and a bard. They do things like give rage to allies, which unfortunately the barbarian already has. They would probably have bounded spellcasting like the Magus and the Summoner. I'm not exactly sure. In Pathfinder 1st Edition, they can also cast spells from other traditions. This would be amazing. They also have a song that can literally revive the dead. But again, I don't think this is very likely. Sadly, I do not think this adds enough to the game for them to make it. It's just too similar to other classes. I mean, the feats would basically be a combination of the Barbarian feats and the Bard feats. The only reason they would even need to playtest this class is so that they could make sure that everything works together correctly. Let's face it, the Skald is just way too similar to what we already have. It's just not very likely. The next class I would love to see in the playtest is the Slayer. The Slayer is a combination of the Ranger and the Rogue. They get a lot of the same things that Rangers and Rogues gets, just not as powerful and at higher levels. For example, they do get something similar to Hunt Prey at first level, and they also get sneak attack at a higher level than the Rogue does. The Slayer talents could very easily be turned into feats, no problem. I do think that this class is more likely to be in the playtest than the other 2 I've covered in this video, but I still think it's highly unlikely. It just has the same problems that Skald does. It's just too similar to other classes. In fact, I think a lot of the classes like this are going to have that same problem. I mean, we already have something similar to Gestalt in this system, so we don't need these classes too. And now we come to the 2 classes from Pathfinder 1 that I want to see that are most likely to be in the playtest. These 2 classes are completely different from the other classes that I've covered. They would probably have completely new feats and class abilities. The first one I want to talk about is the Samurai. In Pathfinder 1, the Samurai is very similar to the Cavalier. However, in Pathfinder 2e, the Cavalier is an archetype, not a class. I think the Samurai would get some similar feats to the Cavalier, just more of them. Samurais have orders, which could very easily be turned into subclasses. The Resolves could turn into focus spells as well. Things like rolling twice and taking the better result on Will and Fortitude saves would be amazing as focus spells. They get a bonded animal at level 1, which could very easily turn into a first level feat. The Samurai is a one-on-one combatant much more than any other class that we have right now in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. The Champion does have some ability to say, don't attack anybody but me, but with the challenge ability, the Samurai takes minuses if anyone else besides the target of his challenge tries to attack him. The banner ability would also be amazing for teamwork. Demanding challenge would also be an excellent way of giving the samurai teamwork potential. Samurai is much more likely than any other class on this list, and I think has a pretty good chance of being one of the classes that we'll get in the playtest. And now we come to the last class on this list. You've probably already guessed it. Of course we're getting the Inquisitor. Everybody's been talking about it for months. We thought we'd get it in Secrets of Magic, but we didn't. The Inquisitor is a martial class that has some divine spellcasting. They're probably going to give it bounded spellcasting like the Magus and the Summoner too. In Pathfinder 1, the Inquisitor gets their wisdom to knowledge checks. If Inquisitors get that in Pathfinder 2, it would make them the best at recall knowledge in the entire game. It might be difficult to word it, but intelligence to nature and religion and wisdom to arcana and occultism would be amazing. Because knowing enemy weaknesses and resistances is huge in Pathfinder 2e, especially from a teamwork standpoint. They could have so much fun with this, simply because there would be feats for recall knowledge all over the place. In Pathfinder 1, Inquisitors get half their level to intimidation and sense motive checks. They are definitely going to have to rebalance that, though. Because a level 10 character getting a +5 to intimidation is not okay. The other thing is, the judgments could very easily be focus spells. Either that, or we're going to get a few of them as class abilities. But either way, we're not getting all of them. There's far too many. Being able to say, I judge you, and then getting a bonus or the enemy getting a penalty is one of the reasons I love Inquisitor so much. I'm sure I'm not the only one that wants to see this one the most. And it's definitely the most likely. Of course, we could get some of these classes, we could get none of them. Paizo may decide to give us something completely new, which would be amazing, but these are the ones I really want. And that's going to wrap up this video. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and subscribe to the channel for more Pathfinder 2nd Edition teamwork content. You can also check out my Facebook and my Twitter. But if you really want to support me, you can pledge to me on Patreon. Links are in the description. So until next time, remember, teamwork is vital.